Love can build a bridge. Uh, and yes, I think it's time. Don't you think it's time? I do. I am so ready to open the doors to let love in. That song's been around a long time, and it is time to build a bridge between your heart and mine and to take that infinite power that we are to begin with us and to connect in a new way. Right now, we're going through some interesting times, if that's what you want to call it. Margaret Wheatley calls it a turbulent time. She says, we crave connection. We long for peace. We want the means to walk through the chaos intact. The peace we seek is found in experiencing ourselves as part of something bigger and wiser than our little crazed self. The community we belong to is all of life. And she continues, sacred experiences give us what we need to live in this strange yet wondrous time. We need as many sacred moments as we can find. We invite these moments when we open to life and to each other in those grace-filled moments of greeting. We know we're part of all this and that it's all right. Yes, love can build a bridge. The one bridge that links all of life together is the divine intelligence that is back of all things. It's in our nature to be in community, to feel connected, to establish a sense of belonging. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. The monthly theme for Centers for Spiritual Living in October is Cosmic Connections. And weekly, today, Inextricably Connected. So, how do we understand this? How do we get to knowing this connection? And it's through our understanding of our spiritual nature as one with spirit that we understand our connection to each other. Because we know, as religious scientists, that God is who we are, God is what we are, God is where we are, no matter what. There's no beginning, there's no end. Each of us is God showing up just as we are. And that divine intelligence continues to flow no matter what's happening in our lives, no matter the pandemic, no matter grief, sorrow, happy times, joy. It's all God. And there are times when we feel closer to God than others. I remember as a early student of Science of Mind, I was in a church and there were some older mentor people there. And I remember one of them had a sign. It said, if I don't feel close to God, who moved? It's like, yeah, that divine spirit, that infinite intelligence, that creative energy is always there. If I don't feel connected, maybe I need to open. Maybe I need to do something. So it remains the same. God is right where we are all of the time, no exceptions. And that reminds me of the Quaker bumper sticker that reads, love thy neighbor, no exceptions. So all my life, I've heard about God's love. Maybe you have too. Starting with Jesus loves you. And then, of course, the only Bible verse I ever learned, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And then we hear about love in 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. It does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres, and love never fails. So God as love, love never fails. And then I heard Jesus loves the little children and of God's love like a father for us children. I had a little trouble resonating with that one since I wasn't very close to my father. He was a wonderful, great man, but we weren't close. So I didn't have that relationship, um, not like some people. So little Johnny said, Dad, I want to ask you a question. And this was after his first day of Sunday school. And his dad says, Of course, of course. So Johnny says the teacher was reading the Bible about the children of Israel building a temple and the children of Israel crossing the Red Sea and the children of Israel making sacrifices. Uh, yeah, his dad said. So what's your question? Well, didn't the grown-ups do anything? So not able to resonate with God the Father, I thought, well, maybe I can have Mother, Father, God. And that worked for me for a while, anthropomorphic as it is. But I was still looking for that something else, that connection with spirit. I remember a minister in Southern California, Helen Street, and her name, a pet name, I guess, if you will, for spirit, was Big Sweetie. Now, that's being pretty familiar, and it made me smile, but it wasn't me. And then I was in that space of God being that, spirit being that big vending machine in the sky. It's like you put in your request, you get something out. So that's not really a personal relationship with spirit. And I've always heard of spirit as universal love and unconditional love. And I could hear the words and yeah, they made sense, but I didn't really get it. I didn't feel it. And so I have to look at what is my relationship to this love? What is this relationship? What is this love within me? And so always my relationship with the divine grows, it changes and unfolds in a myriad of ways. You can tell different names at different times. Mother, Father, God, infinite source, divine mind. What about lover of my soul? Well, in the pamphlet of What Religious Science Teaches, this is what we hear. And this is from the What We Believe statement. And it says, we believe in the unity of all life and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. Exactly from the What We Believe statement. We believe in the unity of all life and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. So that divine presence, that infinite source out there, and that light within me is the same thing. And this goes on to explain, it says, the enlightened in every age have taught us that back of all things, there is one unseen cause. And it goes on, there's one life of which we are part, one intelligence which we use, one substance which takes manifold forms. And they all may be as one as thou, Father, art in me and I in thee, and they also may be one in us. And it goes on to tell us, this is the piece that I really started to open up to. All sacred scriptures have proclaimed the unity of life, that every person is a center of God consciousness. Okay. This is the meaning of the mystical marriage, or the union of the soul with its source. This is the basis of all New Thought teaching, the spiritual union of all life. The mystical marriage, the union of the soul with its source. So what if I am not a child of God, but I've grown up and now instead of God the Father, Mother, God is now a partner? What would that be like? Ernest Holmes writes in the Science of Mind textbook, page 343, for those of you who are referencing your textbook. The great mystics, like Jesus, have taught us that as we enter into the one enters into us and becomes us and is us. And they have taught the mystical marriage, the union of the soul with the soul of man, with the soul of God, and the unity of all life. So, again, this mystical marriage, united with spirit, union with the beloved. Wow. You know what? This is a totally different relationship. You know what this means? This means there's community property. This means we have a joint banking account. This means that we are intimate with spirit. We are closer than hands and feet. And suddenly, instead of something out there, holy cow, we're in relationship. Did I mention community property? Yeah. And we are in a new age marriage. It's an equal partnership where we are fully known, deeply loved. Oh my gosh, this just opened up so many things for me. So, with this thought of being in a marriage with God, now I have tools I can apply because, see, my marriage is second only to my love of spirit in my life. So I'm familiar with marriage enrichment, marriage encounter, how to work on your marriage, how to be the person you want to be in your marriage. Wow. Because just like you don't know how marriage works, you don't know how relationship works when you're a teenager because you're not there yet. Just like as a newlywed, you don't know what 20 years or 30 years or 40 years of marriage is like because you haven't been there. So we learn, we study, and we understand all that we can about relationship. But you have to throw 90% out of that because you're married to a specific person. You don't need to know how to be in relationship. You need to know how to be in relationship to that person. Just like we need to learn how to be in relationship with ourselves and how to be in relationship with that divine within. And it's true for the same thing for the divine marriage. Spirit will show itself to you gradually over time, and you'll get to know it. You'll get to know it by those long conversations, by being together, by committing, covenanting, vowing to find out what it means to be a spiritual being in a human body. And so with this marriage thing, I'm pulling books off my shelf. I have Love Poems from God and Pure Marriage. And I go back to what was read at our marriage, the Apache wedding blessing from back in the 80s. And this is what it says. It says, now you will feel no storms, for each of you will be a shelter to the other. Now you will feel no cold, for each of you will be warmth to the other. Now there is no loneliness, because you know what? It's me and God here. Okay, for each of you is a companion to the other. You are two persons, but there is one life before you and one home, that home of spirit in me. Oh, goodness. So turn together to look at the road you traveled to reach this hour of your happiness. It just stretches behind you into the past. Look to the future that lies ahead, a long and winding adventure-filled road whose every turn means discovery, new hopes, new joys, new laughter, a few shared tears. May happiness be your companion. May beauty surround you both in the journey ahead and through the years to come. So go this day to your dwelling place, that heart within, and enter your days together. May your days be good and long upon the earth. Your adventure has just begun. Wow, and this guy keeps his vows. Spirit keeps its vows, keeps its promises. And so now I have to ask, Am I pulling my weight? Am I doing what it takes to be in relationship with spirit? Am I growing this relationship even after the years and years and years of this marriage? There's still things to uncover, still things that God has to let me know about, like this, like the community property thing. Who knew? So, one of the books I pulled off the shelves was a book on love languages. And this book is by Gary Chapman. It was written at first, it was written Love Languages for Marriage, but then he wrote a book, Love Languages of God. So I thought, oh, maybe I should actually read this one. You know, all those books behind me. So, love languages. First of all, love languages are affirmation, gifts, acts of service, quality time, and touch. It's how we reach out to people, and it's how we like to be fed those languages. If you speak to a person in their language, they are touched. So I looked at the love languages of God, and I thought, well, how do we speak to God in love languages? And so the first one that came up was affirmation. Affirmation. Okay. Well, in Hinduism, chanting. They're always chanting to that divine and just devotion. Also in Buddhism, chanting to the beloved. Psalms of David, chanting to the beloved. Love poems to the beloved. And then we have gifts. Gifts. So the Muslim tradition is gifts, almsgiving. We give gifts as tithing. So love language of God is affirmation, as gifts. Acts of service, acts of service. I'm reminded of the Sikhs who, when we went to the Parliament of World Religions, fed 5,000 people. That was an act of service. And they accepted no payment for this, but you could volunteer if you wanted and do your own act of service. And then quality time, meditators of all denominations. We're spending quality time with spirit. Taking a walk in nature, we're spending quality time with spirit. And then touch. How do we speak to God in love language? How does God speak to us in love language? Well, touch, movement, I think about the whirling dervishes or hands-on healers. This is touch. This is an act of love, or we feel that divine presence. So these are the love languages of spirit, and these are our love languages. Affirmation, gifts, acts of service, quality time, touch. This is how we know that we are loved. When I was first introduced to Science of Mind, I was okay, I'm a bit skeptical. And I was open, and I was learning, and yet I wanted proof. And I said, okay, so if this is true, then if I ask and it's given to me, then I want a gift. And I didn't specify what it was. It's just, I want a gift. So I want a sign that this stuff that I'm learning works. And at the time I was living in an apartment in the LA area. And a few days earlier, I met my upstairs neighbor at a Princess House party that she hosted. Still have some of that Princess House stuff. And within an hour of me making this request for a gift, she came down the stairs, knocked on my door, and handed me a small crystal heart, which I still treasure as a reminder of God's love. Coincidence? Maybe. A gift, definitely. And I have to tell you a secret. So last week I received another gift from out of the blue. When I unpacked my groceries, there was a bottle of Smucker's Sundae syrup, caramel flavored. That's important. And I was surprised because I ordered it and it wasn't on the receipt. And so it just showed up. And now, the secret part of it is, sorry, honey, what no one knew was that a few days earlier, I'd finished a delightful little jar of handcrafted caramel sauce that our Paris neighbor had given us just before we left there in June. Um, Sorry, honey. You didn't know we had it. Okay, love is about sharing, I guess, too. So the divine speaks to us in a language we can understand. By the way, it also speaks to us in language we don't understand and we can't hear, but that's not what we're talking about today. It's kind of like the blind carolers in front of the school for the deaf. They just it just doesn't connect. So that divine speaks to us through a small still voice or a still small voice within, and it speaks to us through friends and neighbors and even the loudmouth second cousin twice removed that always comes to the family reunion. But now think about this. God as partner, God courting me with gifts. So my mind is blown wide open. And then I realize, of course, the marriage idea, the relationship idea doesn't work for everybody, just like father didn't work for me. But what if I have become my parent? What if, as a child of God, I have grown up to be that God being? What would that be like? So, in Science of Mind, we believe God lives in us, through us, as us. And I refer you to the kingdoms of consciousness. First, it's to me, where we're a victim, and we have to leave shame and blame behind to move into the second kingdom, where things are done for you. So, with things done for you, that's the big vending machine in the sky that gives you those gifts. And in order to grow out of that, out of those terrible twos, where it's all about us, we give up trying to control. Oh my gosh, that was tough. Well, is tough, I should say. We transcend the ego self and we move to the third kingdom of through me, where we become a partner, a vessel for spirit to work through, where we live in faith. And then to move to the fourth kingdom, which is the oneness, the as me, we have to give up the idea of separation, the idea that there is something out there and there is something in here. There is those people on the other side of the earth, and there are us in the United States. There are those people that live in South America, and there are people that live in the United States of America. There are people that live in the East Coast, and there are people that live on the West Coast. And really, Texas is the best place. What if we're all one? What if there is no separation? I'm working on this one. God as me, the oneness. So, yes, we are inextricably connected. And yet I seek to a greater understanding. And if only I could get a hold of it for once and for all, because what happens? We kind of slip back into to me, for me, through me, to me, for me, through me. And it just goes like that. But to stay more in the through me and to ease my way into as me, then I have to shift the metaphor. There is that story, an old story of the creator and the angels discussing where to hide man's divinity. And one says, put it at the bottom of the ocean. They'll never find it there. And God said, no, humans are very smart. Someday they'll find their way to the bottom of the ocean. And so another said, well, then put it at the center of the earth. And God said, well, I suspect one day man will find his way there too. We need a more obscure spot. And so another angel said, how about the top of the highest mountain? But God felt sure that man would find it there as well. And finally, an angel said, I've got it. Let's put it in a place they will never look, right inside them. Mhm. So, to inspire a deeper relationship with the divine, to be in a deeper relationship with the divine, that is all that Spirit asks of us, a deeper relationship. God is love. You're loved. How are you to receive God's love? And how do you show God's love? How do we show God's love? Through knowing our spiritual identity as one with the divine, we realize we are never alone. We're always one with the divine. And then we stay open to the connection that good and divine intelligence within us keep us inextricably connected to God, to ourselves, and to our spiritual community. It is in this openness, in trusting ourselves, in opening our hearts and minds and souls to receive the love, to receive compassion, to receive the good that's coming to us, that we can then return that. We receive it so that we can release it. We let it go and we return that back into the universe, into it where it came, with our fellow beings as one. So if we are deeply experiencing, embodying, and knowing our connection to the one living spirit, then we discover our connection through each other. And through that, we access the connection of love and light, and we experience that connection to God, to the divine, by whatever name you call it. So I'd like us to have an experience of that connection right now. So if you'll allow me, I would like to do a guided meditation. And so let's just begin by an exhale, just exhaling, letting go, just letting go. And just take a few minutes, a few moments to arrive and settle in and bring your awareness to your body and into your mind and acknowledge how you're feeling and just let that be. And then shift to a mindful breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. There's no need to manipulate this breathing in any way, just breathing in and out normally, naturally. And then shift your attention to where you're seated and begin to feel the connection of your body on the chair. And then feel its connection to the floor. And then reflect on the connection of the floor to whatever structure you're in and its connection to the earth. And as your awareness expands to include the earth below you, feel the sense of being held by the earth. And allow yourself to be held by the earth, knowing that you are in a safe space. You can breathe in and out with ease, and all is well. And feel how that earth rises up to hold and embrace you. There's nothing more you need to do. Know where you have to go. Know when you have to be. Just being held in the heart of kindness, and let it be. And imagine now feeling more love from someone than you have ever known. You're being loved even more than your mother loved you when you were an infant, more than you were ever loved by your father, your child, your most intimate lover, anyone. This lover of your soul doesn't need anything from you. It isn't looking for personal gratification. It only wants your total and complete fulfillment. You are being loved for being just who you are, just for existing. You don't have to do anything to earn it. Your shortcomings, your lack of self esteem, physical perfection, social, economic success, none of that matters. No one can take this love away from you. And it will always, always be here. And imagine being in this love is like relaxing into that warm bath. It surrounds you, supports you. You feel as though you are dissolving into that love. Oh, and just let it be. And this love is always part of you. It's always flowing through you. It's always connecting everything. And when you tune into that flow, you feel it in your heart, in that heart at the center of your being. And so bring to mind someone that you would hold in this way. Reflect on your loved ones being held in the same way, with safety and ease of body and mind. And reflect how the earth holds all beings, acquaintances, strangers. Some we might call difficult, some we love. It holds all beings with no bias, no discrimination, no separation. It forsakes none, small or large. And then reflect on how this earth does not exist in a vacuum. It's connected. It's connected to a solar system. It's connected to the universe. We're all interconnected. Our bodies, the earth, the sun, the stars, all composed of the same matter, the same particle, all created by the same divine energy. And we're just joined together in different ways. And just feel that sense of connection, interconnection, everything made of stardust. And feeling that sense of being at home within your body and mind and belonging and connected to everything else. And just let well wishes form. May all beings here and everywhere dwell in peace. There's nothing you need to do, to go, to get, to push away, resting in the heart of the universe. And know that you can return here anytime. And for now, begin to bring your awareness back to the flow of your breathing. Feel the cool breath in your nose and in your throat. And notice as you breathe, your physical body, your tummy rising and falling. And be aware of your full body now, coming into that full awareness of your body as it rests against the seat. Bringing attention back to your toes. Give them a little wiggle, and your fingers, maybe wiggle them a little bit. Give your shoulders a shrug, and just let yourself become aware of the room again, of the screen in front of you, of all the sounds that are close by around you. And when you feel ready, just gently open your eyes. Bring yourself back to the present moment and soak up all the lovely feeling. Take your time, have a little stretch, and listen as Lisa plays. That's all I ask of you. And so it is.